The wind clawed at the jagged ruins of Outpost Viridian, sweeping dust over blood-soaked metal and splintered glass. Distant mountains stood silent, indifferent monuments to a dying world. Rika Hale crouched behind the twisted frame of a solar array, eyes fixed on the horizon, where black clouds weren't clouds at all. They were the dreadships of the Galactic Empire. They arrived with the precision of predators, blotting out the twin suns and casting everything beneath into fractured twilight. Her breath fogged the inside of her cracked visor. She switched her HUD to external feed. Troop transports were descending from the lead ship, scattering like dark seeds from a ruptured pod. She saw their formation, elegant, disciplined, arrogantly slow. They weren't in a rush. They thought this planet was already theirs. "Command, this is Hale. They're here." A crackling voice returned. "Copy that. You've got 35 minutes until the last civilian transport launches. Hold them, Commander." She didn't respond. What was left to say? Around her, a skeleton crew of fighters emerged from cover. Weathered uniforms, modified rifles, makeshift barricades fused from the remains of mining vehicles and atmospheric processors. Some were barely more than kids. All of them were tired. "Positions," Rika barked, her voice clipped and certain. Private Dern, a wiry kid with plasma burns up one arm, leaned over. "They're laughing, ma'am." Rika paused. "What?" The Empire." Broadcasting again. He tapped the side of his helmet. She toggled the encrypted emergency frequency. Sure enough, the transmission bled through, distorted voices drenched in digital echo, mockingly human. "Your struggle is appreciated. Resistance is the mark of spirit. Pity it will be crushed so easily." A deep, synthetic chuckle followed. It wasn't a voice meant for communication. It was for psychological warfare. It was theater. She switched it off. They always laugh before they start killing. Ignore it. The ridge to the west towered above them, a natural stone spine clawing toward the sky. Beyond it, the final shuttle was fueled and waiting. If they could hold the line here, even briefly, hundreds might escape. Maybe more. She pulled her sidearm, checked the magazine, then glanced skyward. The first drop pod struck dirt like thunderclaps. Dust plumed outward. Shadows unfurled from them. Empire shock troopers in their obsidian armor, faces behind mirrored helmets, weapons glowing with artificial intelligence. They walked like demigods. Rika didn't wait for them to speak again. Fire. The world lit up. Homemade railguns cracked like bone snapping. Plasma bolts lanced the air. Empire soldiers returned fire with surgical lethality. Every hit from their rifles disintegrated cover or flesh. The outpost erupted in chaos. Rika moved through it like a blade, directing teams, hauling injured fighters behind walls, dragging ammunition to faltering positions. There was no room for fear, only motion. A mortar round hit close. She stumbled, ears ringing, vision smeared with static. A scream nearby. Kaido, her second-in-command, cut short midward. Her teeth clenched. She shoved the grief down into the pit where it belonged. Not now. Not yet. From the ridge, another volley of pods fell, arcing overhead like falling stars. They landed with such force the ground cracked. She tapped her helmet mic. "Fall back. Sector Theta 4. Use the ridge for cover." Troopers began to pull back, one by one, under fire. Some didn't make it. Some didn't scream. She covered the retreat herself, moving backwards with her rifle raised, each shot precise, clinical. As she ascended the incline of the ridge, her boots scraped across a stone. She paused just long enough to notice the markings. Not natural erosion, no. These were carvings. Sharp, deliberate, and unfamiliar. Symbols etched in angles the human I didn't easily follow. Her fingers brushed one out of instinct. A pulse trembled beneath her glove, like the stone itself was breathing. Then she heard it, just under the wind and gunfire. A hum, low, resonant, ancient. "Commander Hale." Came a voice from behind. It was Dr. Mira Salas, the expedition's xenolinguist, who had refused evacuation. "That's not just a ridge." Rika nodded once. "Notice." Mira moved past her, eyes wide, scanning the symbols. Her hands trembled. These aren't local to Naraka 7, or even this region of space. They're precursor. I'm sure of it. Can it help us? Mira opened her mouth, hesitated. I don't know, but it's reacting to something. Below them, more Empire troops advanced. Slow, deliberate. Their laughter echoed again, this time from the troopers themselves, amplified through helmets as they crushed the fallen under boot. A fighter beside Rika screamed in defiance and charged. He was vaporized instantly. The laughter rose in pitch. Rika clenched her jaw. I've had enough of that damn sound. Behind her, the hum in the ridge deepened. It wasn't responding to Mira. It was answering them. She turned back toward the stone and, for the first time since Earth fell, allowed herself to hope. The wind shifted. The ridge shimmered faintly in the failing light. The Empire laughed louder, mocking, confident. But their helmets didn't know what was buried beneath the rock. Not yet. The passage to the ridge was narrower than it had first appeared, flanked by jagged stone that loomed like petrified sentries. Rika led the way, rifle at the ready, boots crunching over loose shale and fragments of broken mining tools abandoned by long-dead surveyors. Behind her, Mira Salas clutched a portable translation rig and scanned the glowing glyphs with wide, anxious eyes. Engineer Kellen Trask followed in silence, one hand brushing the rock face, the other never far from the pistol at his hip. Rika halted as the passage opened into a hollow chamber hidden within the ridge. The walls curved impossibly smooth, seamless, as if grown rather than carved. A crystalline formation hung in the center of the chamber, suspended in midair, without visible support, humming with a slow, deliberate pulse. The air vibrated against her bones. Mira stepped forward and whispered, It's real. Precursor technology. Not speculation. Not myth. This thing is alive. Kellen knelt at the edge of the platform beneath the crystal, flipping open a diagnostic kit and connecting a power tap. No interface ports. No known material composition. Not reacting to electrical input. He frowned. This thing doesn't want to be understood. Then we don't need to understand it, Rika said, voice low but sharp. We need it to do something. Outside, the ground quaked as a barrage of ordnance slammed into the upper ridge. Dust trickled down from the ceiling, and a distant rumble warned of structural instability. Rika keyed her comm. Report. Empire's pushing hard, came the reply, ragged with stress. We've got heavy losses in the eastern trench. One more push and they'll overrun the evac corridor. She muted the channel before the panic could spill further. They didn't have time. Mira stared at the crystal. It's not a weapon in the traditional sense. It's a node, a psychic conduit, maybe. The symbols are metaphysical markers, not instructions. This thing responds to cognition, emotion, intention. Kellen looked skeptical. You saying it reads minds? No, I'm saying it listens. The humming intensified. The air shimmered around the crystal, like heat rising off pavement. Mira turned her translation rig toward a nearby wall and ran her fingers along a row of symbols. Her lips moved, repeating a phrase barely audible over the resonance. The crystal flared. A sharp, white pulse arced outward like a silent thunderclap. Rika flinched. Kellen ducked. Mira stood still. The pulse swept through the stone like ink into water. Glyphs ignited across the chamber, bleeding up the walls, over the ceiling, then out through the narrow passage behind them. A second later, every comm unit crackled with static. Empire soldiers outside the ridge faltered. Some collapsed to their knees. Others clutched their helmets. Rika climbed to the overlook and peered down the slope. The front line of shock troopers had stopped moving. A few had begun firing wildly into the air. Their precision was gone. Their order was broken. Something just hit them, Kellen said, breathless. Mira didn't answer. Her eyes were closed now, lips parted as if she were listening to something far away. Her voice was barely audible. They hear it too. What are they hearing? Us. Rika watched one of the troopers below remove his helmet. The man staggered in place, his expression lost somewhere between awe and terror. He dropped to his knees, face tilted skyward, blood trailing from his nose. The Empire's assault didn't stop, but it slowed. No more laughter broadcast from their units. Mira opened her eyes. The crystal magnifies the conscious echo. It's not just sound. It's memory, emotion, humanity itself. We're not projecting noise. We're projecting our history. Rika processed that with grim efficiency. And they can't handle it. They weren't built to. They're conditioned for dominance, conquest. No introspection. No guilt. Kellen laughed bitterly. So when they hear what we are, what we survived, they short-circuit or fracture, Mira said. The ridge vibrated again, this time from impact. The Empire had begun to shell the structure. Chunks of rock rained down into the chamber. They're trying to bury us before it gets worse, Rika growled. Outside, the comms lit up again with fragmented reports. The Empire falling back in places, erratic behavior from command units, sensor ghosts appearing and vanishing in the upper atmosphere. The crystal pulsed again, brighter now, and Mira stumbled back, eyes wide. It's not just listening anymore, she whispered. It's choosing. A new glyph glowed at the chamber's far end, one that hadn't been there before. Mira approached it, scanning. Her translation rig stuttered before forming words. Voice of the worthy shall fracture the void. Kellen whistled. That sounds like either salvation or obliteration. Rika touched the comm on her collar. Unit 2, reinforce the north slope. Target only advancing units. Let them retreat if they try. Her voice was hard, but her thoughts were racing. If this was a weapon, it wasn't one they controlled. If it turned, it would take everyone with it. She looked to Mira. Can we aim it? Mira shook her head. Not like a gun, but it's reacting defiance. To courage. That's what fuels it. The crystal flared again, and a new tremor shook the ridge. The laughter that had haunted them since dawn was gone, replaced by silence. Unnatural, total. And yet, even in that silence, the Empire's ranks began to advance again. Rika watched as they regrouped, unsure, slower, but still disciplined. Fear was not enough. She looked at the crystal, at Mira, at the distant evac point hidden beyond the ridge. Then she raised her rifle. Then we give it more to listen to. The battle was far from over, but the first crack had formed. Ash drifted through the air like snow as Rika descended the ridge, her rifle pressed tight to her shoulder. The landscape below writhed with movement. Empire soldiers were forming ranks, their black armor gleaming despite the chaos, their formations regaining shape like shattered glass drawing itself whole again. Whatever effect the crystal had wrought was already beginning to fade. Their hesitation had passed. The fracture had not been fatal. Rika crouched beside a half-collapsed barricade of fused alloy, scanning the horizon. From this position, she could see the jagged trail leading down to the valley's edge, where smoke still coiled from the last evac shuttle. The civilians had made it off-world. That was something. Maybe everything. She touched her comm status? Waning, Commander, came the voice of Sergeant Toma. They're regrouping. We've got 2 functioning mortars, maybe 1 railgun. If they push hard again, we break. Hold position, Rika ordered. Just a little longer. She looked back toward the ridge where Mira still stood in the crystal chamber. The precursor device continued to pulse, but the light was weaker now, flickering like a candle in a vacuum. Whatever power it had unleashed was not infinite, and it had required more than proximity. It had required belief, defiance, humanity at its rawest. Kellen stood beside Mira, hands splayed against the crystal surface. He whispered something she couldn't hear. Myra's face was pale and slick with sweat, eyes locked on the glyphs that continued to shift under her gaze. Her lips moved without sound, mouthing words that weren't hers. Something was still speaking through her, or to her. Rika turned back to the battlefield. Empire soldiers advanced again, slower, more cautious. Their formation was tighter, their steps less sure, but their weapons were no less lethal. One of them raised an arm and fired. A streak of searing light carved a molten line through a nearby ridge, sending debris tumbling. The ground shuddered. Behind her, the humming from the crystal deepened. A tremor passed through the stone under her feet. This time, she didn't flinch. A dozen Empire troopers crested the lower ridge. She aimed, fired twice, dropped two. The others paused, but they didn't retreat. Rika ducked behind cover, reloaded. They weren't laughing anymore. That alone felt like victory. A flicker of motion caught her eye. A lone figure scrambling to the rubble, small and fast. For a moment, her instinct screamed ambush. But as the figure drew near, she saw a child, no older than 10, dragging a bleeding soldier by the arm, pulling him out of the line of fire. Rika vaulted over the barricade and sprinted, laying down cover fire as she went. Plasma scorched past her left shoulder. She dropped to one knee beside the child and hauled the soldier into her arms. The kid looked up at her, dirt streaked across his face, eyes wide and defiant. He couldn't walk, the boy said simply. Rika nodded, said nothing, and carried the man back behind the line. When she set him down, Myra's voice burst across the comms, clearer than before, steadier. "It's ready." One more time. Rika glanced up. The crystal pulsed again, but not like before. This time, the light refracted to the air, as though time itself bent around it. Kellen's silhouette was silhouetted in the glow, his mouth open in a silent scream, though no sound escaped. Mira stood tall, arms outstretched, as if bracing herself against a tidal wave. The air changed. Every soldier on the field, human and Empire alike, froze for half a breath as the ridge shivered. Then came the sound, not a blast, not a scream, but a harmonic chord that didn't travel through air. It traveled through memory. Empire soldiers staggered. Some dropped their weapons. Others clutched at their heads, their helmets sparking. Rika saw one scream silently as the polished black of his faceplate began to shimmer, then fracture as though struck from within. The sound deepened. Helmets cracked. One by one, the mirrored visors of the advancing troops imploded. Not violently, but with a brittle finality, like glass surrendering under pressure. Shards rained down around their boots. Underneath, Rika saw their faces for the first time. Not monsters, not gods, just men and women, all wide-eyed with a terror so profound it looked holy. They were not bleeding from wounds. They were bleeding from their minds. Myra's voice came again, but not in English. The language wasn't translatable. But Rika understood the meaning. You looked into us, and you were broken by what you saw. Empire soldiers fell to their knees, some sobbing, others blank. A few turned their weapons on each other in confusion. A commander tore off his breastplate and ran screaming into the ruins, leaving behind a rifle and the last shreds of protocol. The battlefield stilled. Kellen collapsed. Mira caught him, barely. The crystal dimmed. And then silence. Complete. Rika stepped forward, gun lowered. The few remaining Empire soldiers didn't move. One tried to speak, but choked on the words. Another reached out, shaking, toward a memory only he could see. Rika's calm hissed with incoming chatter, reports from every flank. No more fire. No more laughter. Sergeant Toma's voice cracked through. They've stopped. All of them. Just stopped. Rika looked out over the field of shattered helmets and broken arrogance. She didn't cheer. She didn't cry. She only whispered, "Not gods, just glass." Mira emerged from the chamber, pale and trembling but alive. Her voice was hoarse. It showed them what we carry. Every atrocity, every loss, every scream we never forgot. They couldn't bear it. And us? Rika asked. Mira looked her in the eye. We were forged by it. The sky above began to clear. The dread ships that had darkened it moments ago now drifted, no longer in formation, no longer coordinated, as if whatever linked them had cracked as well. The cost had been immense, but the fracture was real. And deep in the quiet that followed, Rika knew the war had changed. Not ended, but changed. Behind her, the crystal gave one last pulse, then went dark. The morning came without music. No birdsong, no word drones, no thunder of engines. Just wind rustling through the charred remains of Outpost Viridian and the low murmur of survivors gathering among the ruins. The smoke had cleared. The Empire had not returned. Rika stood at the edge of the ridge, helmet tucked under her arm, eyes scanning the valley that had once been a battlefield and now lay still, haunted by silence. The sunlight seemed artificial, too clean for a place where so many had died. But the light was real. For the first time in weeks, it reached the ground unchallenged. She turned as Mira approached, wrapped in a scorched thermal cloak, the translation rig hanging dead at her side. Her face was gaunt, her expression unreadable, but her voice carried the brittle clarity of someone who had spoken too many truths in too short a time. "The crystal's inert," she said. "Or resting. I can't tell. Is it safe?" Mira shook her head. "It's not a weapon in the way we define it. More like a threshold, a gate that opens under pressure. We didn't use it. It used us." Rika absorbed that in silence. Beneath them, engineers and medics were collecting wounded and salvaging what they could from wreckage. Children had emerged from the shelters, staring up at the sky with wonder. No Empire ships. No signal interference. The dread hung in the air like the aftertaste of poison, but it no longer controlled them. Kellen arrived, limping slightly but whole. A deep scar ran from his left temple to jaw, raw and angry, but he wore it like armor. He nodded to Rika, then to Mira. "We've established a defensive perimeter. Automated sentries from an evac ship are still functional. Communications are live again. We're pinging allied networks." "Any response?" He hesitated. "Not yet, but the broadcast we intercepted, word is spreading. Across 3 systems, there are reports of Empire forces behaving erratically. Command nodes in disarray. In some sectors, they've gone dark entirely. Because of what happened here?" Rika asked. "Because of what they saw," Mira said. "Or felt." Kellen crouched and picked up a fragment of shattered armor. An Empire helmet. The visor split down the center like an eggshell. Inside, the surface was charred with strange fractal patterns, as though burned by thought rather than flame. "They're not machines," he said, almost to himself. "They were conditioned, trained, rewritten, but that conditioning cracked." "Do you think they'll come back?" Rika asked. Kellen stood. "Some will. The ones who saw nothing. Or the ones who can't stop." Mira looked toward the mountains. "But they'll hesitate now. For the first time, they'll ask why they fight. And that changes everything." Rika nodded slowly. She didn't feel victorious. She felt awake, as though a curtain had been pulled back, not just from the Empire, but from herself. She had always fought to survive, to protect, to endure. But now, there was a deeper shape to the struggle, a purpose that stretched beyond tactics or terrain. She stepped away from the ridge and walked down toward the field. Survivors moved aside as she passed. Not out of fear, out of recognition. They had all seen what she had done, what they all had done. Every scream, every stand, every refusal to kneel had been etched into the mind of an enemy that could not unsee it. She found Private Dern sitting cross-legged in the shadow of a broken transport, bandaging his leg with slow, deliberate movements. He looked up at her and smiled, teeth bloody but proud. "You were right, Commander," he said. "They laughed first, but we ended it." Rika crouched beside him. "We bought time." "No," he said. "We made them afraid." A low hum passed through the air, not from the crystal, not from machines. It came from the valley itself, the quiet unity of people moving, rebuilding, breathing. They were not alone. Not anymore. Behind her, Mira approached again, holding a data slate. "I've translated more of the glyphs. There's a pattern to them, a resonance map. I think this chamber is one of many." Rika turned. "On this planet?" "Across the sector. Possibly further. The precursor network may be dormant, but it's not dead. This was just the first to awaken." Kellen joined them. "So what do we do with that?" Mira didn't hesitate. "We find the others. We learn what they are. And if they can listen, we teach them who we are." Rika looked at the data slate, at the echo of symbols burned into stone by forgotten hands. Then she looked at the soldiers around her, some injured, some lost, but all changed. The Empire had come to crush rebellion. Instead, it had shattered its own illusion of invincibility. And the ridge, once nothing more than rock, had spoken, not with words, with memory. A distant thrum rolled across the valley. Not enemy fire. A ship, a small, old transport streaking through the sky, trailing blue exhaust. A reply to their signal at last. Someone had heard. Reek arose. Then we prepare. We rebuild. And next time we want to survive. Mira met her gaze. We'll be ready to answer. The ship descended toward the outpost. The survivors gathered below, eyes bright with hope. Above them, the ridge stood eternal, silent now, but never again asleep. The crystal within had shown them something greater than resistance. It had reminded them what it meant to be seen, truly seen by the enemy, and to endure that gaze without blinking. The Empire would come again, but next time they would remember what shattered their helmets, and why the humans had never stopped laughing back.